Our next speaker, inshallah, will be Brother Muhammad Ali. Brother Muhammad Ali, the fund manager at 33% fund, which adheres to the guidelines of Islamic Sharia, ensuring that all investment activities comply with the religious principles. Mr. Ali is also the author of Investivus for the Rest of Us. His expertise and commitment to responsible investing have made him a respected voice in the community, inspiring many to pursue investments that align with their values. So please give a round of applause to Mr. Muhammad Ali.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. Speaking of best usage of time, I walked all the way up here to make sure that I use the last second. So another round of applause for Muhammad Ali, please. Thank you. Well, two things to know about me before I start is that I'm not an academic. So anything I say or do here cannot be held against me in universities like this. Another thing is I am not a boxer, although when I'm not working, I do box on the weekends. That's important. It's a true story. Okay, let's get right into it. As soon as the screen is up. So today, inshallah, we're going to talk about value investing and AI. How to look for and find value investments in the stock market, and how to integrate that with AI, which is something that's very common nowadays. Artificial intelligence is being used everywhere. We're going to make sure that we integrate that with the stock market and the picking of value in the stock market, and we're going to talk about that today, inshallah. I actually used AI to create the slides, well, with the help of another team member. Using AI in everything is very well recommended, as I'm going to speak about that in a little bit. Some people will tell you, some people go as far as saying that AI will one day, sooner than later, take over your job. I do not agree with that, but I'm going to tell you something that's a little bit more specific. AI, or someone that uses AI better than you do, will definitely take over your job. So keep that in mind. Let me know if it's not going to work and I can just start without. Okay. So we're going to talk about value investing. Value investing started, well, what is value investing? Value investing is looking for and finding a stock that is at or below intrinsic value in the stock market. How do you find stocks that are at or below intrinsic value? What is intrinsic value? Intrinsic value is book value. It is actually the fair value, the actual value of the company and of the share according to fundamental analysis. Basically what that means, it's the fair value of any company based on its numbers. Anything that is numbers is called fundamental analysis. Anything that is charts is called technical analysis. Okay, so based on fundamental analysis, based on numbers only, we look for earnings, we look for revenues, we look for future forecasts, we look for all kinds of numbers. It's very complicated. At the end of the day, you get to a certain number, usually per share, that says, for example, Moderna its intrinsic value is somewhere around $100. I'm not making recommendations on this stage, but for example, that's a company that is both Sharia compliant, which we're going to talk about as well, and also it is way under intrinsic value. And that's, that's an example of how we do or how we look for companies that are at or below intrinsic value. Another thing that we can explain until the slides get up is how do you buy companies that are lower than intrinsic value, and why do you do it? The way that this is done is by, well, technically by using value investing. Using value investing and using all kinds of screeners that get you to choose the right stock. And once you find the stocks that you are looking for that have an intrinsic value and have actual, profitable numbers or positive cash flow or all the numbers that we're looking for, you usually have, as a hedge fund manager, I usually have a good 60 to 100 companies that I'm looking at. Those are all great companies according to their numbers, according to their fundamental analysis. Now, when do I decide to actually go in and take a position in any company or any stock? I do not take positions in stocks that I have not been looking at, that have already been pre-screened fundamentally. But when I decide to go in and purchase a stock, I decide based on technical analysis, because I already know the stocks that I like. I'm just waiting for the right price. What price am I waiting for? I'm waiting for intrinsic value to happen. And sometimes something even better than intrinsic value happens. Sometimes a fluctuation in the stock market happens where a lot of people are not happy, but people who are sticking to the principles of value investing are actually very happy when that happens. Okay, we're going to talk about all of that. How did value investing start? Value investing started with a man by the name of Benjamin Graham. Benjamin Graham in the late 20s or early 30s was very famous. He actually is usually referred to as the father or the godfather of value investing. He actually wrote the book on value investing, a book by the name of The Intelligent Investor. There's someone that we know that still lives amongst us today by the name of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was the student of Benjamin Graham. He actually took all of his principles that he learned from him. He took it all the way to the bank, literally. And by doing so, he started he purchased a company by the name of Berkshire Hathaway, changed it from selling textile to selling to a holding company. And he uses the principles of value investing to identify and find and look for value stocks and buy them either at intrinsic value or at a much deeper discount than intrinsic value. And that only happens when a big fluctuation in the stock market happens or some sort of a dip happens in the market. Okay, I'm going to use some of the terminologies here that maybe most of you are familiar with, because I think that nowadays, everyone and their grandmothers have, an account on Robinhood or E-Trade or something, right? So basically, when a dip happens, when the market goes down, and if it goes down even deeper and where a lot of people are worried and a lot of people are losing their arms and legs in the market, that's when someone like Warren Buffett comes in, whom we know recently has sold or he's staying, for his company, he's staying in over $200 billion in cash. That's out of 1 trillion plus. That's not little, that's more than 20%. He's staying in cash because he's expecting something to happen where he's going to have an opportunity to buy more stocks at or lower than intrinsic value. I can give you examples, but let's get into the actual explanation of what a value investment looks like. So if we were to give you a picture instead of the one that's not here, what we'll do is we'll say there's something called market value. Market value is what everybody in the market agrees that this is the fair market value right this second. That is when you say Tesla today is trading at $220, for example. That's market. What does market value mean per share? What does it really mean? It means that people are willing to buy it at 220 and some other people are willing to sell it at 220 and they meet at $220. That's market value. That's not where a value investor is looking for the stock. A value investor is looking for the actual book value of Tesla. And if that number, for example, is $150 or $160, that's what they're waiting for. That's what they're waiting for, and that's the price they're waiting for. So they've pre-screened it, and they're looking for that price to happen. And when that price happens, and only when that price happens, or somewhere around it, maybe within a 5% margin, they'll go in and they will actually buy the stock. Okay, it's working. So speaking about the people that came after Warren Buffett, does anybody use value investing nowadays? Of course they do. Some hedge funds do. I'll take a couple of questions at the end. I'll finish faster. And maybe some of us can use value investing if you learn it. The important part is to put it in practice. And putting that in practice is by sticking to the principles of value investing. Don't think at any point that value investing is only for, value investing is only for certain companies that are higher than a certain, market cap or lower than a certain market cap. Value investing works for all companies as long as the principles are being implemented. Don't also think that value investing means buying stock cheap, because buying stock cheap means that you can buy any stock that becomes cheaper. And that's not the case. The case is that we look for fluctuations only in companies that we have pre-screened to be financially healthy. How do you get to find companies that are financially healthy? Definitely by looking at its fundamentals, like I've explained. You look at the numbers, and then the time to buy is by looking at technical analysis. Margin of safety is what I was talking about earlier, when you look for intrinsic value, but then also wait for a good discount, like a very deep discount on that stock, and you can wait for it. It's all about being patient. When that happens and you buy at a deeper discount than intrinsic value, a lower price than the book value of the stock, not the market price, not the intrinsic value, but the margin of safety price. That helps you just in case any other fluctuations happen. And if that happens, you already bought it at a discount. It's not going to go down another 40%. It might go down another 5 or 10%, usually. Okay? Like I said, Warren Buffett bought Berkshire Hathaway and used it as a holding company in order to buy value stocks. How do you use value investing for global markets? Some companies like mine, hedge funds, can use or can invest in global markets because we're not being restricted by the SEC not to do so. You just have to watch out for different kinds of markets and the fact that you're investing in different currencies, and keep that in mind and keep all the politics in mind. When it comes to technology and tools that we have in order to help us with choosing value investments have come a long way. They started with computers, and now we are at AI. Some of the challenges that we meet in today's market is, your friend or your mother-in-law calling you and telling you there's a stock that you need to buy because it looks good and because they're talking about it on Twitter or X now that they call it X. There are a lot of challenges in the market. The way that to stay away from challenges is to remember the principles of value investing and sticking to them. And remember that they are not outdated and that they still work for every era. Stick with the basics, just like Muhammad Ali said, he sticks with the basics. It's only 4 punches in boxing. You stick to them, and there's so many combinations that you can come up with. How do you keep that Sharia compliant? It's very important for us as Muslims to stick to Sharia compliance when it comes to investing, because if we don't, then we are doing it wrong and we are doing it haram. Everything that we do as Muslims comes from Islam, comes from our Quran and Sunnah, and so should our finances. They're not any different. They're actually a very core issue. And of course, we have ways and we have guidelines that we can follow. You can ask someone like Joe Bradford, who's going to speak after lunch, or someone like Dr. Ma'an, who's going to speak tomorrow, inshallah, in the afternoon. You can ask them more about the guidelines of Sharia compliance. We have AI tools to help us with that. And we have also Zoya, some other company that we follow that helps us choose our Sharia compliant companies. And then we still also look for that dip, we look for that intrinsic value, and we look for that margin of safety. A lot of misconceptions about value investing, like I've mentioned before, is thinking that buying a cheap stock is value investing. That's not value investing. Thinking that value investing doesn't work for today, no, it still does work for today. As long as you stick with the principles, it will work. Let's talk about AI really quick. AI investing or AI in investing is basically partnering with artificial intelligence. And the best way to do that is to keep in mind that there are many AI tools for investing. For example, at our company, we have our own proprietary AI tool that helps us screen stocks and find the right stocks, and helps us also with market trends and how to predict or do prediction analysis or predictive analysis. AI can do a lot for you, but that all depends on what you teach it to do, because AI obviously is not a human. It is teachable, especially if you have your own bots and you can teach them how to do things specifically the way that you want. And don't only teach yourself, teach your team how to work with AI. I always tell my team, if you're not using your AI tools, you're not really that worthy for me at the company. You can be 3x your worth if you're using AI. Keeping in mind that human expertise is needed is very important, because sometimes AI tools make mistakes. Robots make mistakes. You need your expertise in order to combine this with that and have the best of two worlds. When it comes to screening, I think that's the best use of AI, because artificial intelligence can be very speedy at looking at a whole bunch of data for you. Thousands of companies, tens of thousands of companies, and it can identify companies for you based on preset data that you choose for it. And then from there, you still need to look and use your expertise as a human to identify the last one that you need to talk about. That helps you in market trends and in predictive analytics, and it helps you basically not forecast the future so much, but forecast which companies will do what if a certain trend happens. AI can also help you in real-time decisions. In trading or investing, we have 3 kinds of investing. We have day trading, where you buy and sell within the same day. We do that a lot. We have swing trades, where it could be a couple of days, a few weeks, a few months. And we have investing. There are tax, advantages to investing for the long term, and that goes very well with our principle of sticking to value investing, because when we invest for the long term. And we can get into specifics, but anything that's more than 2 years basically will give you a tax advantage of paying 20% in taxes for being a passive investor rather than paying at your tax bracket, which can be up to 55 or 60% in certain cases for accredited investors. How do you stick to ethics when you have AI to help you with investing? It actually helps you a lot because it helps you screen and go through a lot of stocks in order to put, if you put the guidelines like we have, if you put the guidelines for Sharia investing, it will screen and find those stocks for you. And then after that, you can help it with your human expertise in order to find the right stocks or the right time to buy the stocks that you've already pre-screened. Sharia compliance, I already turned you over to Sheikh Joe and Dr. Man to ask them about it. But basically, we have certain guidelines, and to talk about it really quick, the guidelines include the very basic idea of not investing in prohibited businesses like alcohol, pornography, gambling, or banks that, where their core business is interest. But there's a lot more to it. There's at least 2 other guidelines that have to do with percentages, that have to do with cash available, that have to do with the debt ratio, and so on. But that's a whole other conversation. Limitations, absolutely. There are many limitations when it comes to AI in investing. AI will sometimes make mistakes. Make sure that you do not depend totally on artificial intelligence. The future has a lot to bring when it comes to AI. And like I said, don't ever think that an AI tool or a robot will ever replace you. If you are good at what you do, the only thing that can replace you is another person, another human that knows how to use AI better than you do. So the human touch is very important when it comes to AI because human judgment will always be irreplaceable. How to train AI with your human expertise in order to get the best out of both worlds? You can definitely train it by giving it more prompts, and you can definitely train it by giving it more prompts, more specific prompts, more guidelines, and train it. We have, actual professionals that can do that, that can train the bots to do a lot of the work that have to do with AI prior to your human expertise coming into the game. Conclusion, I would say as a conclusion, when you deal with artificial intelligence, it is very important to remember, I forgot the name of the movie, but there's a movie for Tom Cruise where he's trying to get his wife back. At one point, he walks into a room and he says something like, hello. And then at the end, he says, you complete me. If you're able to do, Jerry Maguire, thank you. So if you're able to do that, every time you use your AI tool, every day in the morning, when you use your AI tool, every time you use it for anything, especially when it comes to money and finance, always say, you complete me, because that will give you the right idea about how to use AI. You need to be in touch with your AI. You cannot let your AI work by itself. You cannot totally depend on it because it will make mistakes, and definitely will not ever replace you because it will not have the emotional intelligence that you have, the sentiments that you have. You always need to check on your AI. Thank you very much.